Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavansam Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare.
Sada Sampada Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Ashtatari Sadarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavedanta Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Anyone can do some pay obeisances. I'm going to do some prayers and they can say Jai afterwards. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pairajakachaja A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pairajakachaja Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki. Anantikoti Vaishnavinda Ki. Nama Shastra Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakor Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sirveta Gadada Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Maipur Vrindavan Dham Ki. Nilachala Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki. Ganga Devi Yamuna Devi Ki. Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki. Nitai Gaura Pramandi. All glory assembled devotees, all glory assembled devotees, all glory assembled devotees, all glory Shri Guru and Shri Guru and glory Shri Prabhupada. Everyone can sit down for 5 minutes, you're going to pray to Nrsimha for protection.
Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha Shilatankana Kalaye Kitso Nisimha Parato Nisimha Yato Yato Yamitato Nisimha Ahi Nisimho Hidahi Nisimho Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye Avakara Kamalavadinakam Adbhuta Shringam Talita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavajita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Shri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan Ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna everyone, thank you for coming to the manor today for Gaura Aarti. There's Mahaprasadam now being served in the Haveli, and there's also a Bhagavad Gita class now here in the temple room. So stay around if you can. Hare Krishna.
sorry.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we start the class with the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers. If you know them, you can repeat them after me. If not, that's fine. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prachajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kancha Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada.
So, we're reading from Bhagavad Gita today. We have some just here if you want to follow along. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita this evening, chapter 9, text 19. So I'll read the Sanskrit. So I'll read one line and then you can repeat after me. Once you found it. In this book it's 479. I'm not sure. Is it the same? Yeah.
Text 19.
Yes. Text 19. Okay. Tapam yaham aham vasham. You were okay. Tapam yaham aham vasham. Nikrinam yud. Oh gosh, it's quite difficult, isn't it? Nikrinam yud srijam yicha. Nikrinam yud srijam yicha. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha. Sada satchaham arjuna. Sad asatchaham arjuna. Tapam yaham aham varsham. Nikrinam yutsrijam icha. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachchaham arjuna. Do you want to have a go? You want to have a go at leading? No? Okay. Okay, so I'll go through the word for word. So if you just repeat after me. Tapami, give heat. Aham, I. Aham, I. Varsham, rain. Nigrinami, withhold. Utsrijami, send forth. Cha, and. Amritam, immortality. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Mrityu, death. Cha, and. Sat, spirit. Asat, matter. Cha, and. Aham, I. Arjuna, O Arjuna. So the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: O Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. Please repeat. O Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So the purport: Krishna, by his different energies, diffuses heat and light through the agency of electricity and the sun. During summer season, it is Krishna who checks rain from falling from the sky, and then during the rainy season, he gives unceasing torrents of rain. The energy which sustains us by prolonging the duration of our life is Krishna, and Krishna meets us at the end as death. By analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain that for Krishna there is no distinction between matter and spirit, or in other words, he is both matter and spirit. In the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one therefore makes no such distinctions. He sees only Krishna in everything. Since Krishna is both matter and spirit, the gigantic universal form comprising all material manifestations is also Krishna, and his pastimes in Vrindavan as two-handed Shyamasundar playing on a flute are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srimad Pasti. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming. What's your name again? Manisha. We met before, I think, didn't we? Yeah. Yeah, probably. Okay, so Hare Krishna to everyone listening online or behind the curtain in the dirty kitchen maybe. So I thought I would give a little bit of background. So we're on chapter 9 at the moment, which is called, can you see what it's called? Chapter 9. So yeah, it's called, I'll tell you, it's called, yes, exactly, the most confidential knowledge, thank you. So chapter 9 is a really important chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. So the first 6 chapters are talking about karma yoga, and then chapters 7 to 12, Krishna is talking about bhakti yoga, and then 13 to 18 we're talking about jnana yoga. So these middle 6 chapters are considered like the treasure in the treasure chest. They're the very important, very precious kind of jewel of the Bhagavad Gita. And then chapter 9 is like right in the center of these 6 chapters as well. So this chapter is really important because Krishna is giving Arjuna some really confidential knowledge about devotional service and about bhakti yoga. So it's very important in being able to understand Bhagavad Gita and Krishna's instructions, if we can understand something from chapter 9. And Krishna speaks about how it's the most confidential knowledge at the beginning of the chapter. He calls it Guhyatamam, which means the most confidential. And why is it the most confidential? He explains, Prabhupada explains in the purport. So chapters 7 and 8, they are talking about devotional service directly. So they're talking about bhakti yoga. But chapter 9 speaks specifically, he says, about pure unalloyed devotional service. And someone who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. So yes, this is a very important chapter, and I'll just go through a little bit about what we've already spoken about in chapter 9. So the chapter starts off by talking about the importance of hearing transcendental knowledge, about hearing from Krishna, and what can this do if we hear in the right way. We can become free from material desires, and we can gain spiritual advancement. Hearing is so important. To be able to advance spiritually. But there's a certain way that we should hear. Krishna says that he's giving this knowledge to Arjuna because he's not envious, and that's why he's qualified to hear the knowledge. And so it's really important that when we're hearing, that we hear with a non-envious attitude, and then we can actually absorb what's being said to us. If we have some envy in our heart, then it's very difficult for us to learn in spiritual life. And so Arjuna had none of this, and so that's why he's being told this knowledge. And then Krishna glorifies the knowledge that he's giving Arjuna. He calls it the purest knowledge, the king of education, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam, and it's the most secret Guhyam. It's everlasting and it's joyfully performed. And then Krishna says another thing, that we must hear with faith. We must be willing to hear it and to actually believe it. And then Krishna goes on to say, he explains his position and his relationship with the material nature. So he says in verses 4 to 10 that he is within the material nature, but he's also aloof from it. He's detached from it. He's far superior to it, and he doesn't need to involve himself in it. Even though, of course, because it's coming from him, he is within it. He's also, he doesn't need to engage with that nature. It's all under his supervision as well. And Prabhupada gives a really nice analogy about this in text 10. It's like when somebody smells a fragrant flower, so the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, but at the same time the flower and the smelling are separate from one another. So they're kind of connected, but at the same time they're completely separate. And then in text 11 to 15, we learn about how unintelligent people, or fools, as Krishna says, neglect the personality of Krishna, personality of Godhead, and devotional service. But someone with intelligence, someone with divine qualities, doesn't neglect this, and they don't neglect their true duty and their true identity. And they don't neglect to try and understand who Krishna is. And Krishna also explains the symptoms of a Mahatma. So he's someone who's chanting his glories, he's endeavoring with determination, and he bows down before Krishna as well. So these are some of the activities that someone performs when they're fully realized or even trying to become realized. And then in these few verses here that we're on now, 16 to 19, Krishna is explaining how we can see him in the material world. So I'll just read back through from text 16. So I'll just read the English translations. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So this is really interesting, actually. I find that he's saying, I am the butter, the fire, and the offering. So he's the fuel in the sacrifice, then he's the actual fire itself, and he's the offering. So everything within that sacrifice, Krishna is that. He's the essence of that. Okay, and then text 17, I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. So everything that we can endeavor to know or want to know, all of these transcendental literatures, he is the source of everyone, the father and the mother, and also everything rests within him. He's the object of knowledge, so everything, as I said, everything that we want to know, everything that we endeavor to know is him. And he's also the one who cleanses us, purifies us, and he's the syllable Om, so he's the personal form of the syllable Om. And the original form of that. And then yesterday's verse was, I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. Wow, so Krishna is a lot of things. So he's something that we aim towards, the sustainer, something that maintains us, maintains everything, both materially and spiritually, the master. So he's in charge, obviously. We have this relationship with him. He's the master, we're the servant. He's the master, the witness, so he sees everything, of course, every little thing. Even though we don't believe it sometimes, if we're on our own, we may do things that we wouldn't do when someone else is around, but actually Krishna's always there watching us. The abode and the refuge, so we can take, he's the shelter. He's our only shelter, actually. And the most dear friend, of course, Krishna is always our very, very dear friend. We can always turn to him. Anyone else, actually, especially in the material world, we can't for certain trust because they're covered. But Krishna is our most dear friend, our most well-wisher. I'm the creation and the annihilation, so everything is produced by him and everything is destructed by Krishna. And he is the basis, so he's the source of everything, how everything is sustained and how everything keeps going. The resting place and the eternal seed. So, the place where we rest, and also the place that produces everything eternally and forever. And so now we come to our verse today. Okay, so he's saying, I'll just repeat it actually. O Arjuna, I give heat, and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So Krishna's giving us even more ways that we can see him. He's giving us an idea even more of his power. So I understand from this verse that Krishna is saying that he gives everything, he gives heat, and also he's in control of the rain. If it rains a lot or if it doesn't rain at all, he's in control of that. So the heat from anywhere, so we may think the heat comes from the sun. From a material point of view, that's how they would see it, that the heat just comes from the sun, and that's the source of our heat. But ultimately, it comes from Krishna. So any heat to cook, heat to digest our food, actually Krishna is within all of that, and he's the source of that. And then he goes on to say, I am immortality. So he is eternal life, and also he's the essence or the epitome of death. So my understanding of this is that the fact that our soul is eternal, that we do have this part of us that is eternal and lives forever, this is from Krishna, and this is actually Krishna. So our eternal constitution and our eternal body, the eternality of our body, is Krishna. So he's both the cause of this and he is the essence of this. And then also on the flip side, the experience of death. So the opposite of this life force, death, actually the experience of death, the trauma, the pain, and also just the idea that a part of us is coming to an end. I mean, it's I guess it's not a part of us ultimately, it's just we're just trapped within this cage of our body, but that's space that we've been living in, that's going to come to an end. And this is also Krishna. So the end is Krishna, and also the eternal part of us is Krishna as well. And I was listening to a few classes on this, and about Prabhupada as well. I was remembering a few things Prabhupada said. Some people, about death in particular, some people may say, oh, I don't believe in God. I mean, a lot of people may deny the existence of God, but we can't deny death. Everyone has to accept that death is a fact. I don't know anyone who would say they don't believe in death, right? Nobody believes that, yes, I'm immortal and my body is immortal and it's going to live forever. And so this is kind of a good way actually to prove the existence of at least a higher power, because no one can deny that we're going to die, and it's not in our control when we're going to die. And the fact that we are definitely going to die, that is completely not in our control. We can't change that. We must accept it. And no one can who can save themselves from death, actually. We may be able to prolong our life so much different technology, medicines, all of, so many machines, they can keep you alive for longer, but ultimately, the body is going to die. So however big or powerful, weak or strong we are, this is inevitable for all of us, even for someone who is spiritually advanced. If they have a material body that is going to go at some point. And Prabhupada says in a few places actually that some people say that they don't believe in God, but they will have to believe him when they're face to face with him as death, because it's saying in this verse that Krishna is death personified. So when we die, actually, it's said that you see Krishna, like you're faced with Krishna because he is death personified. And so we have to accept him. And there's one verse actually from Srimad Bhagavatam I was thinking about, that, even though we must accept that death is inevitable still, we kind of don't really accept it. We're kind of living our life thinking that, and it's another thing that Prabhupada often mentions in classes, we kind of like to deny that to ourselves. There's this verse from the second canto. It goes, Deha Patya Kala Tradish Atmasainyeshva Satsvapi Tesham pramato nidanam pashyan apina pashyati. And it's saying that people that don't ask about the problems of life, and they're not interested in spiritual life, and they become very attached to their material relationships. And they think that those relationships can save them from death, basically. And even though they may have experience of life, they may know about the difficulties of life, still they kind of deny to themselves that inevitably they're going to die and they're going to meet with destruction. But still then, when you come face to face with it, they will have to accept this. And so our verse is saying that they must accept Krishna because Krishna is death. Yeah. Okay, so to kind of summarize that point, so one who can't accept that there is a God must accept that there is death. But even then, we may not really accept that death is coming and that we're going to die. But when we're faced with death, we have to accept both. We have to accept death, and in that death, because that is Krishna personified, we must accept Krishna. Do you have any thoughts, actually? I'll just pause there. Can I just get the microphone for you? Just so that yeah. Okay. Mm, yeah. Mm, yeah. Okay. Okay. Mm, mm, yeah. Yeah. Why is there a distinction? Do you mean in the broader term, like why is there a distinction between Krishna and, or you were thinking more about the flower? Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it is interesting. So this is just an analogy to explain Krishna's relationship to the material world. So from my understanding of the analogy, um, Krishna is like the flower, and then the scent is like the material world, and then us smelling the scent of the flower. We're not actually touching the flower itself. We're not actually, necessarily touching Krishna. We're touching his energy, which is the scent. That's like us kind of engaging in the material energy. And so he's separate from the scent and the person smelling it, though he is the source of that interaction between the one being engaged in, smelling the scent. So he is the source, but he's also aloof. He's also detached from it. Mm. Mhm. Okay. So you're asking, I'll just repeat, actually I forgot to repeat you before. So you were saying that Krishna is within us, and we meet Krishna as death when we're about to die in our last breaths. So you're asking, is Krishna also the body? So of course Krishna is within everything, and it's by his energy that we have a body. Yeah, so it's by his, we're like the material elements are like his external energy, it's said. So Krishna has three energies. He has an internal energy, external energy, and then marginal energy. So the internal energy is the pure spiritual energy. So that's like in the spiritual world, the pure spirit. Like Krishna's body is pure spirit, so that's spiritual. Then the external energy is the matter, dead matter. You know, like this is all dead matter. And then us, we're like the marginal energy. So it's like we always have a choice whether to be engaged with the external or the internal. We have a choice to go with the spiritual or the material. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps a little bit. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. So you're saying that if we are praying with purity and sincerity, are we in contact with the, the pure spiritual nature? Yeah, of course, because we have a pure spirit inside of us. There is something pure there. It's just this process is we're trying to uncover that to ourselves. We're trying to realize actually who we really are and what our relationship is with Krishna. So of course, if we pray sincerely, then that's actually the process, one of the processes that's going to help us to connect even more deeply with Krishna. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can be something spiritual, definitely. I mean, also, sometimes it can be something sentimental. It may be, your own kind of emotional, actually, just kind of this, you know. But, it can all be used in your prayers and your devotion to Krishna as well. Even if it is something material, is we can channel it into a prayer, into devotion. So actually emotions can be really helpful in that way sometimes to help us to deepen our connection with Krishna. What else was I talking about? Might trigger your memory. Talking about death. Hmm. As a material manifest. Yeah, this is a material manifestation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, of course. It's all. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in the sense that also we can use it in most things we can use as well to engage us. Like, I'm using my phone now, for example. I've got my notes on my phone, so it's like I'm using it in a way to connect me to Krishna. So, yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, of course. And it's, yeah. And I mean, these books as well, because they have Krishna's words in them, it's that they're non-different actually from Krishna himself. It's like the literary kind of, like the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the literary incarnation of the Lord. So, yeah, they're very special. very, very special. So when we're holding it, it's like we're holding Krishna. Yeah. So even just, that's what they say to us if we go out on book distribution, try and get someone to at least hold the book, because even just by holding that book, that will benefit them spiritually. It will benefit somebody because they're holding something that's so potent, because it's got Krishna's word, like it's the words of God actually. So just by holding that, it's going to have an effect on them. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll carry on a little bit, and then we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'll say a little bit more, and then for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we can have another discussion. So I was thinking these kind of impersonal aspects of the Lord, the heat, that we can see Krishna within the heat, the immortality, death. We can see Krishna within these impersonal aspects, can be kind of inlets into be able to understanding Krishna for someone who's kind of less advanced or very new, or is someone who's an atheist, or someone who's unable to accept Krishna. It can be a way to an inlet for them to be able to understand Krishna, or to accept Krishna, and to understand that there's a higher power at least. Maybe that's the first step. And I was thinking about that. So no scientist could claim to have power over all the heat. For example, we can switch the heating up or down. We think we have control over the heat in our house. But, if something goes kaput with our, the central system, then we don't have control over that, do we? And in the same way with the sun, we don't have control over, if the sun explodes, that's completely out of our control. So we're so dependent on external things for just the basic things that sustain us, like heat and light. Like if we have a power cut as well, we can't even switch the light on or off. And so Krishna is ultimately in control of all of these things that are sustaining us. So the idea that something higher or more powerful than us that is sustaining us is a way that we can prove God's existence. And even for us who are spiritually minded, sometimes we just kind of theoretically accept that there is a God in control, but really we're kind of trying to keep the control for ourselves. We still think that we're in control a little bit. But by paying attention to this verse and what this verse is saying, we can maybe start to understand that we have so little control over anything. We try and control so much in our lives, even other people, circumstances, things that are happening, but we really have very little control. But Krishna is within everything, and he's in control of everything. So he's within even opposing things, like in this verse it's saying, I am immortality and death. So those things are opposing, but he's within both of them. For us, that's not possible. We can only be for one thing, like I can only be liberal or conservative, I can only be an ashram devotee or congregation devotee, I can only be, one or the other. But Krishna can be within more than one thing, and especially opposing things. Because he's the source of all of that. And Krishna, he's, so everything of the material nature and everything of spiritual nature is also residing in Krishna. He's the source of all that. We learn that from chapter 10. It says he's the source of all spiritual and material manifestations. Everything emanates from me. Okay, now I'll go to the purport actually and just say a few things about, I've made quite a lot of notes, but I'll just go through a few things that I wrote down. So this first line, so by Krishna's various powers, he's emanating the heat and light. We kind of already spoke about that a little bit. actually. So it's by the electricity and the sun. So it's not him directly. He has his different agents to be able to emanate the heat and the light, the different energy that sustains us. So he's aloof. That's another way that he is aloof from this material energy. He doesn't have to personally get involved. He's that powerful that, we can't even control sometimes, like, one light in a room, if we get a power cut. But for Krishna, he's even not personally involved. He just, lets someone else, his agents, get on with it. And also the rain as well, it speaks about in this verse. So Krishna gives us different seasons. So in the rainy season, it's said in the purport, Krishna sends lots and lots of rain. And then in the summer season, he withholds the rain and stops the rain from coming down as much. So he's in complete control of the weather. And again, this is kind of showing us how small and not in control we are. And even the energy that sustains us, so our life force, this is controlled by Krishna. And then that force that keeps us going until our very last breath, that's Krishna. And then the thing that causes us to have our last breath and that is there at our last breath, that's also Krishna. So the source of our very existence, like everything in our our very existence is because of Krishna. And the energy actually that we're talking about here is consciousness. That's what, if we're conscious, then we're alive. If we've lost our consciousness, completely, obviously we can be unconscious, but there's still, some level of consciousness if we're still alive. But if we've completely lost our consciousness, that means that the body is dead. So our life force, that is consciousness. So Krishna is responsible for that. And I was thinking about that, like how, like what does atheists think is actually sustaining them? Like who do they think is responsible for their consciousness, or what do they think is actually responsible for their consciousness? There's something that's keeping them going all through life, but what do they think that is? Or do they even ask that question? I don't know. And where does that go as well at the end of life? They don't have an answer to that. That energy that's leaving their body, how do they answer that question? Do you have any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's an interesting question. So I don't know if I can answer. So you're saying that how does an atheist progress spiritually if they just have no faith that God exists? But maybe, they've, in some sense, they've had contact because they've seen, death. That's something, that death happens. Does that maybe help them to remember that they are spirit soul? And that can help them to progress. That's like, I don't know, actually. I only know there's one thing that I can say is that when it's said that when we're in the womb, before we're born, actually we do have some realization that, I promise, we say, in the womb, I promise I won't forget you, Krishna, that I will pray and I will be your devotee in this life. if you just let me out, because the womb is not a very comfortable place to be. And so the baby is praying that please let me out, and I will be your devotee. And then it's said that as soon as we're born, we forget all of that actually. So there's one thing I can say. I don't know about this death thing though. Actually, it's possible. I can't say for sure. But yeah, atheists, how do they progress? It's just by mercy. Because the devotees are very merciful, and they're always trying to give transcendental knowledge. They're trying to give mercy in the form of prasad, the holy name, books, things like that. And atheists, that's why we go out, you've probably seen, we go out on harinams, we're chanting the holy names. So everyone who's on the street at that time will hear the holy names, even unconsciously. They're just walking by, they just kind of, think, oh, what's this kind of crazy people dancing and singing, but they're still hearing the holy name, even if it's unconsciously, and that will help them to make progress. And prasad as well. Somebody doesn't for example, my parents don't understand what prasad is, but I'm giving them prasad all the time, and because I want to help them to become closer to Krishna. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. So you're saying we don't have control over much. We're trying to control, but we don't. Ultimately, Krishna's in control. So do we actually have any free will? Of course we have free will. We have, it said, we have minute independence, actually. So of course Krishna is in control, but and he knows what's going to happen. But we also, we do have independence. We have choice. We make so many choices every day, thousands and thousands. I think I had a friend who was kind of into psychology. She was saying we make 30,000 decisions every single day. So definitely we do have some independence. My point was kind of that we don't have control over the big things. Like if the sun explodes, I don't have control over that. If there's a power cut in the temple room right now, I can't do anything about that. But I can have a choice over, for example, even what I'm saying to you now. I can say one thing or I can say another. I have a choice what time I go to bed. I have a choice what I eat for dinner, and bigger things as well, obviously. But yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we don't actually. Usually it's because there's so many other factors, isn't there? There's other people, what other people do. We can't control that. Just circumstances, just things happen sometimes. And in spiritual life, we can learn that all of those things, especially if we've come to Krishna consciousness, all of those things have maybe led us also to go deeper actually spiritually, especially if it's something that has caused you a lot of pain or suffering, because then it helps you to realize that, this isn't, I don't want to suffer anymore, and then we turn to something spiritual. And yeah, definitely those life-changing moments often, yeah, we don't have so much control. But we still have minute independence. We can still try and do the best. It's not like, oh, I have no control, so what's the point in even trying? Of course, we just endeavour our best to do what, in our heart feels like Krishna is inspiring us to do, the Lord is inspiring us to do in our hearts, and what's best for us. And then, yeah, that's all you can do. It's like, then if something happens that you didn't expect, and it's like, okay, the Lord just wanted that to happen, and I just have to make the most of that situation. So it's just kind of like feeling your way over. From my little experience. I don't feel like I'm really old enough to be, or experienced enough to say that, but that's just kind of, yeah, my small realization. Okay. Thank you. I think actually we're kind of, it's 8:30 now, so I think we'll end there if that's okay, unless you have something, any last final words. I'm sorry. Okay. You want me to say something else? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so today, maybe I'll just do a summary of what we spoke about, and then it might help you to think of something. So we went through a quick recap of the chapter. We spoke about how hearing is very important for spiritual life, to be hearing without envy, about how chapter 9 is the most confidential knowledge because it's about pure devotional service, how Krishna is aloof, but also how he is within material nature. We spoke about how fools neglect the process of devotional service, and the Lord is a person, but the divine don't neglect that. And then how we can see Krishna in the material world, so we can see him. There are a few examples. He's the goal, the sustainer. He's like the sacrifice, the butterfly, and the offering, the object of knowledge, lots of different things. And then our verse today, we spoke about how Krishna is the source of all heat. He's giving heat. He's the essence of heat. And also he's in control of the rain, the weather. And also he's the essence of our life force. And he is death personified. So the fact that we have this soul, and that we will eventually find that spiritual body that is Krishna, but also this being faced with death. Krishna is also seen in that experience, that pain. We also spoke about how we don't even really believe that we're going to die sometimes. So some people may say they believe in God, but then when they face death, they have to believe. And we spoke about how, we don't even believe that we're going to die, but then we have to accept it when we come face to face with it. And then I spoke a little bit how we can, seeing Krishna in these impersonal things can help someone less advanced, or someone who's finding it difficult to accept God at all. It's a way to show them, and also, sorry, I lost my trail of thought. Yeah, the fact that we have to come face to face with death. That's showing that there is a higher power, and that's another step in being able to accept God and accept God. I think that was most of what we said. Yeah, he's in control of the rain. He's in control of prolonging our life when our life ends. We don't have control over that. Krishna has so many different energies. Yeah, and also I'll just say a few bits from the final part of the purport we didn't touch on. Prabhupada actually says that Krishna doesn't see spirit and matter differently. He has so many energies, he doesn't see that differently. And someone who's very advanced also doesn't see that distinction. Mm. And so, yeah, I think that's all. Yes. Hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. It's that most of these are kind of the demigods actually that are taking control, like Surya, the sun god, Vayu, the wind, yeah, and like the creation is, yeah, he has his different expansions that create um, the world, yeah. So, I mean, maybe like in the heavenly planets there are kind of, yeah, it's said, yeah, I would say. I'm not sure so much. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you so much for your input. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.